Kimberly, Christian, and Congressman Issa and DeSantis are still with me. Congressman DeSantis, let's pick up there the last of the points that Lauren mentioned, which is this issue that's emerged over the last couple of days, which is to do with the Mueller indictments that came down on Friday. The president should somehow ask President Putin, demand of President Putin that he extradites the 12 people named in that indictment. What do you think of that?
Well, look, I mean, I think that that if they were to do that, even if they extradited one, it's not clear to me that Mueller would be able to prosecute the case. I mean, I think that the theory in the indictment, I think, is probably valid. But remember, the FBI never took the DNC server. So the idea that you would prove that beyond a reasonable doubt would actually be probably something that would be questionable. And remember, when they indicted the Russian troll farms a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, they didn't think anyone was going to show up to court. What happened? One of the companies hired American counsel. They showed up and started demanding discovery, and Mueller wasn't ready to try the case. They had to try to do a continuance. So I think the indictment was not to actually try the case. I think the indictment was Mueller's way of sketching out the theory, which, by the way, involved no collusion with Trump's campaign.
So, Christian, what do you make of this extradition point? You've had Trey Gowdy, I heard today, out there saying, no, we've really got to go for it. They've got to be extradited. And others saying, no, it's just ridiculous. You know, there's no, that's never going to happen. Why? I think it was John Bolton said, you know, by asking for the extradition, which is obviously not going to happen, the president just looks weak. Where do you come out on this?
That's right. I mean, all this really proves is so many people in Congress and so much of the commentariat really doesn't know how to negotiate at all. I mean, even just forget about diplomacy. Walk onto a used car lot. You're trying to buy a used car. You're going to start by insulting and asking the most difficult questions of the other person first? No. The way these work, especially since this is the first real sort of prolonged meeting between Putin and Trump, is you go down sort of the list of things and explain, try and discover where you agree, where you disagree. They're very serious ones, ranging from Ukraine, but also potentially what, you know, Russia might be able to cooperate with us on bringing North Korea, cooperating economically if they really do give up their nukes, on pushing Iran out of Syria, containing China. There are just a number of things that are important. And if you start with this, which is really an intelligence discussion, Putin just looks back and lies to you. Also, it's just blown out of proportion because really the impact of what Russia did is just not that significant.
So, Kimberly, let's move on to the meddling issue, which is top of the list. As I think the president said, your favorite question when he was talking to the media earlier last week. Again, I mean, you saw it there in the statement from Chuck Schumer. It's like he's got to press him on meddling, and I mean, what's supposed to happen? What is it that he's supposed to do that is going to get Putin to say, yeah, you're right, and I'm not going to do it anymore?
Yes, I mean, the problem is, okay, so was there an intention by the Russians to interfere or meddle with the U.S. Election? Okay, I'm sure. And yes, there were Russian bots out there. Did it have any demonstrative impact or effect on the election of a duly elected American president who won the presidency, the Oval Office, fair and square? But the people with the Trump derangement syndrome are still silent screaming inside. They can't get over it. They want to recount. They want to redo. And they can't accept the fact, the will of the people that came out resoundingly, even in states that hadn't before, to support a Republican candidate. So they want to focus on this instead of the big picture items. Instead, they should be focusing on the diplomacy at hand here, and the people that are upset and whining about President Trump meeting with Putin, saying you shouldn't do that, are the same people that said that he shouldn't have sat down and met with Kim Jong-un, are the same people that were trying to prop up a failed climate change accord, are the same people that were trying to prop up and have U.S. American hardworking tax-paying dollars to subsidize other economies here. And it's a failed state altogether in terms of what they're offering, and it's new American politics, new American economy, and new American diplomacy under President Trump. He's not afraid to sit down with Putin and talk to him and deal with all of these issues head on. Why wouldn't you want him to? It's counterintuitive and nonsensical to say that he's already operating at a disadvantage by sitting down. I'll tell you who's operating at a disadvantage: Vladimir Putin, because he has diminished military strength throughout the world. He has a very unpopular war in Syria. Nobody is happy with him. He's got mercenaries basically there because he doesn't have enough troops to even do anything. So when you look at it, we're the ones operating from a position of strength, from a president who's not afraid to step up at the plate, while past administrations were cowering and hiding in the shadows, afraid to even have a conversation.
Yeah, I think that strength versus weakness dynamic is so central to this. Congressman Issa, it's been reported that President Trump is really dismissive of the whole hacking thing, not denying that it happened. He says, yeah, it happened, but this happens all the time. We do it to them, they do it to us, it's gone on forever. What do you want me to do? What do you think of that attitude towards it?
Well, I think anyone who's been briefed, Ron has, I have during my time, particularly on the Select Intelligence Committee, in the things we do, understand how preposterous it is to talk about we want to have these hackers turned over. And I'll just give you a brief one. The European Union has tried to get CIA agents that they identified by name who were accused of doing a rendition of somebody in Italy extradited back there to face trial. You know, it's not going to happen. We don't do that. And we're not going to talk about the merits, but that's their accusation. When we took credit for slowing down Iran by putting into their computer system software that messed up their nuclear ambitions, we didn't say, oh, and by the way, we'll send over the smart guys that did this to you. The fact is, the president understands that this will continue to go on. We will have a talented, well-funded intelligence agency, and we will do certain things in our best interest. They will do theirs. Now let's talk about where we can make a difference. Now, for my Democratic friends, I join with them when I say we have to make our systems more robust. We have to have countermeasures. We're not going to change Russia by saying, please turn over your software people because they did bad.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart take. And one of the things I was very interested in earlier today was, for example, Rand Paul saying that there are really interesting ways we can strengthen our defenses, for example, by decentralizing the whole election system and making it less fragile in that way. And there's a long debate there to be had, but all everyone seems to want to do is just say that President Trump should yell at Putin and then it's all going to be fine. Congressman and Christian, thank you so much. That was great. Kimberly is going to stay with us.